anybody have any questions or any specific topics they would like to talk about in this webinar? Remember, this webinar is for your advantage, and okay, photo editing, Samantha, photo editing. In what regards to photo editing would you like to talk about? Access violations, Marilyn, are actually, I got a question here, why do I get access violations when designing? Access violations are dealing with a shape of an object, whether there's too many nodes or the angle of the shape is not allowing the software to figure out where to put the rhinestones, okay, like a sharp corner or several nodes to create a sharp corner. Those things, the access violations are pretty frustrating, especially when you've vectorized a graphic. Whenever you are creating a design, if your customer gives you a JPEG image or a bitmap image, we have a lot of customers that feel that it's necessary to convert that JPEG to a vector, and it's when you convert that image to a vector that you start to implement nodes. Everybody understand what nodes are? Nodes are actually, let me just fix this here. Hold on one second. Nodes are actually parts of an object that control shape. Let me just do this, bring this down here, okay. Well, we have a shape. Let's go in here and go to images, and I'm going to choose a JPEG image, and I think I have a folder in here called clip art. Okay, so I'm going to bring this in, okay? And that's a horrible resolution image. Let me go to the web, and I'm going to pick up a clip art image. And I use Google quite a lot. Let's go to Memorial Day clip art. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to choose a simple clip art image, something that could be rhinestoned easy. Let's see. Let's choose this guy here. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to bring in that image. Let's say the customer wants this in rhinestones, okay? And I can actually create this in rhinestones without converting to vector. It's when you start converting to vector that you will actually start to create nodes, okay? So let me show you what I'm talking about. Because this image is so low resolution, you can see the different colors of blue that we actually have in that O. You see the dark blues with the light blues. And in the red areas, we even have some yellows on the outer edge where the white actually combined with red on the background color and created this yellow set of pixels that we could see outlining our stars. And over here we'll have baby blue, which you have outlining the blue star here. And that's because white, when it marries with blue and with a blue object, will create a lighter color on the border. So the first thing I do, if the customer wants this design, okay, as it is, and there is no further editing to it, in other words, I don't have to change shape or look of anything, then I do not have to convert this to a vector. I do, however, all JPEGs require a reduction of color. We want to get all these different colors and hues out of there. And so when I have a low resolution image like this, I will go to color reduction. And you can see up here we have a reduce up to and a number of colors here. And if I click on filter, it's going to scan the image and it's going to show me all the colors that it's detecting. You can see here how many shades of white we have, how many shades of blue, and all the different colors of red that it's seeing. Well, we only have red, white, and blue in this image. So if I tell it to reduce its color to those three primary colors and click on filter again, you can see over here our before and after are the same. So I click on return. And you can see, except for these stray pixels on the outer edge of the red, our star has cleaned up pretty well. Even though it's sawtooth, remember, we're dealing with Hotfix, rhinestones, or Spangle. You can see the blue no longer has the dark and blue colors, okay? So what I could do with this is now I can go ahead and resize this. I'm going to go to Layout, and I'm going to set this to maybe an 8.5 inch wide design. And I do not have to vectorize, okay? I could just simply go now to my Hotfix, set my catalog up for the stones I intend to use. And let's take a look at the size of the objects, okay? So I'm definitely going to need SS6 red for the small star, SS6 blue, SS10 red, and we'll do an SS10 blue as well. So I choose the type of stone I'm going to use, choose the stone size, and then choose the I'll choose red first, and then I'll choose blue. I kind of group all my sizes together. I'm OCD like that. And then I'll choose my SS10 stone. Clear. SS10, I'll choose red and add it to the bead bar. And I will choose the blue, the cobalt blue. Okay. There's our stones. Okay, so now when I go to select a stone and I choose my fill pattern and I choose for my digitizing method, autocomplete, when I magic wand that first red right here, you can see it selects and fills properly. Okay, we'll choose the SS10 blue, click where the blue is going to go, and then, oop, there we go. Choose our bead spacing. And then we'll go to an SS10. And we'll choose our magic wand and click on here and enter. And there we have. So you can see how we don't need to convert to vector when we have a pretty clean JPEG image, even though this one here was very dirty. When we do convert to vector, let me show you what this design is going to look like if we convert it to a vector. Let me turn the hotfix off, turn the image back on. And when I click on this and convert to vector, now we're going to have objects. We're going to have shapes of objects, and those shapes are going to be coordinated by these nodes right here, okay? And the more coloration, you can see we don't have many nodes in this star, okay? We have a couple along here. This one here is unnecessary, but we have one at the corners. Let's go ahead and go back a couple steps and to our original graphic where it wasn't reduced in color. One more step. There it is. Very dirty image. So I'm going to go to sets. I'm going to go to layout, and I'll go to 8.5 inches wide like we wanted. The other problem is with the amount of nodes that you're going to have is if you don't clean your image, you don't have sharp. You're not going to have sharp shapes to your vector. So when I convert this to vector, it's going to see all those other colors. Okay, and the amount of nodes I'm going to have. You can see right here, look how many nodes it's putting in here. Like these three on the corner here, if they were closer together, because of the math that's required to coordinate the placement of the stones around this area right here, may cause an access violation. Okay, and you can see here the curved nature of that. It's not good. Normally what you do is on a convert to vector, if you had a convert to vector, is you would minimize the space between nodes. Maximize error means maximizing the amount of nodes that you're going to place in there to control shape. Okay, let me set this to default, and let's take a look at our image. Okay, and you can see we're missing that A, that hole in the A, because there wasn't enough nodes to control the cutout of that A. But when we add more nodes and we minimize the space between nodes, and re-vectorize, you see those objects come back. But the problem is the amount of nodes that we have in here. Look at all those nodes, okay? And you can see all these nodes, as close as they are going to cause access violation errors, okay? So it's far better to treat the object as a JPEG still. Just reduce the colors to the red, white, and blue, the white being the white background, and hit return. Okay? And then once you do that, after you resize, you will actually be able to control the amount of those access violations, because you really don't have any serious amount of nodes in this design. Okay. The next question I got here, hopefully that answers your question. How to combine two different pictures to create one image? That's a good question here. So what we're going to do, we're going to assemble a job. One of the steps that you want to maintain is actually, there's 4 steps of actually creating a design. Step number 1 is you must have a graphic, and that graphic has to be a JPEG, bitmap, portable network graphic, which is a PNG, or you can actually bring in a vectored image as well. But what we want to do is combining images together requires vectorization. Okay, so let's go to the clip art images, and I'm just going to choose another one. Let's go out of here, and I will choose. It's going to do something simple. I'm going to do heart. I'm going to do a heart clip art. I will choose something here. Now, usually when I'm looking for images, okay, the higher the resolution, the better. This one here is 1200 by 1200. This is good resolution. Not many colors are going to be seen in there. 350 by 315. There is going to be some colorations variations, especially on the outer edges. To this, anything under 600 dpi will have that, and it requires a color reduction to be done. This one here being 2020 by 1764 is another good one. Stay away from gradient shades. You can see here we have dark reds like a garnet all the way to lighter reds. You can't really achieve that in rhinestones, so it's far better to choose something very simple. 299 by 279. This will be a very small image, so the pixels will be large in this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this guy here. Okay. And I'm going to save him to, he's a PNG graphic. And we're going to make something out of this, okay? So I'm going to go back to my design error. And I keep getting this access violation, and that's probably because I had a lot of nodes on there. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to desktop. I'm going to go to my clip art. I'm going to drag that hard in, okay, which is a JPEG or a portable network graphic. And you can see there's not much fading of color, even on the outer edges. This is a very clean graphic. Let's go ahead and grab this other one. Let's go that, grab that real small one. This one here is 299 by 279. And we'll bring that in as well. I'll let you see the differences between the two graphics. Okay, I'm going to move this one over. I'm going to import the other one. All right, I'm going to drag it. First of all, you're going to see how small it comes in. Lower resolution images are created for web designing, especially when they're trying to save money on the amount of data that they're using on the web. So if I was going to make this the same size as this heart, well, mouse is jumpy today. Let's make it generally about the same size, okay? When we zoom into this image, okay, you look at all the colors that you're seeing. The problem with trying to convert this with the magic wand, let me show you. I'm going to choose a SS10 stone. All right, watch what happens. You see when I click on that, look how jagged the line is. That's because what I magic wand is a certain color, and it's choosing everything in this field of light pink that is that color. It's even going to be worse on the outline. You see how jagged it is. But when we magic wand this one, we're going to have a nice, clean, sharp edges to it, and that's because it's a higher resolution. This one here is almost like camera-ready art. We can actually convert those to stones, and you can see that they look pretty good. Turn the image off. Okay. This one here, when we hit enter, okay, the edges are going to look jagged. Now this one doesn't look too bad because we have a pretty large graphic. But you can see it's not straight. There's little deviances between the placement of these things. This stone here is to the right of this stone. It's subtle, but you can see it. Okay. Where this one here, we look at it, it's pretty sharp lines. Okay. All right. So marrying colors with colors. Okay. Images with images. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a simple graphic, something that's pretty popular. Let me delete this. The first thing I'm going to do is lay out a graphic of text, okay? And we'll do like a gymnastics team here, okay? We'll go to, let's go to Tampa, lower, and let's go high school, and then we'll do the word gymnastics, okay? All right, so I'm going to choose a font, pretty heavy font here. See if I have anything in here. Something like that would be perfect. Impact works really well. Okay, so, and I'm going to make it gray. My intention is this is all going to be clear stones. Let's bring this out to about 9 inches. There we go. And I'm going to ungroup this. I'm going to move it up to this right here, and I'm going to stretch it so it's the same width as Tampa. There we go. And we'll do the same thing to gymnastics. We'll bring this up here. And then once I get close, I'll use my arrow buttons to nudge it into position. Gives me a little bit better control. And we'll stretch this out so it's the same width. What we just did is we made a square canvas of this Tampa lower high school image, okay? So I'm going to stretch it out so it's a little bit more of a square. All right, there we go. So now what we're going to bring that heart in, okay? And this heart is actually just a JPEG, okay? And what I want is the lettering of the Tampa lower high school gymnastics is going to have the color of the heart into it. You'll see what I'm talking about. Whenever we're marrying pictures with graphics, okay, like we got here, okay, we definitely want to convert all JPEGs or bitmap images or rasterized images to a vector so we can use the vectoring tools to combine it with the graphic behind it, okay? So I will convert this to a vector. And we hit filter here. And let's see what colors it kind of gives me here. Gives me just 2 colors. Remember, this is a high resolution graphic. The transparency layer is the white background, and anything listed here will be deleted from the vector. Okay, so I hit vectorize. It's going to look pretty clean. I hit return, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight both these objects now because the text is already a vector. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a combined vector tool called Trim Shapes. What that's going to let me do, it's going to let me get in here and delete all these extra pieces. So what we're going to have is we're going to have this, oops, did the wrong thing there. I'm going to get inside of here, delete these small pieces of the heart. And let's see, maybe this small little section here. And we'll do this section here. I'll come down here, click on this. Ah, wrong piece. There we go. So what we got is we have part of this text now taking on the shape of the heart just in color. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Hotfix here. I'm going to add my stones I intend to use. So I'm going to go to the catalog, and let's go ahead and sweep this out. And let me see. I'm going to go to the background color. There is a background color to this. The actual silver part of this letter I want to be nice and flat because I want a good fill, okay? And the Tampa, so we're going to do 2 SS6 stones here, okay? And I'm going to add the clear. Oftentimes, I will add the SS10 stones and see how it does with SS10 stones, just in case I can get away with using it. It means I'll be using less stones in my design. less stones I got to have on hand to actually do it, and I could be a little bit more profitable when I do SS10. So, all right. So now to make it job easier, I need to group all the grays together. And we've got a question here. Is it possible to group Hotfix sections that you have manually created? Yes, I will group objects together. That's my next step. And I missed what tool you use to delete with just send. It's called, when you highlight the both objects, the tool I used was in the combined vectors. It's called trim shapes. And what it did, it trimmed all the shapes of the heart from the graphic behind it, okay, the lower high school. So that allowed us to get the heart shape within the letters of Tampa Lower. So what I'm going to do is on the right-hand side, I'm going to open up my object manager, and I'm going to group like colors together. You always do this from the object manager. Hold your control button, and I'm just going to start selecting all these gray pieces. Just makes it easier for me when I'm converting. I do not want to have to select each gray, convert to rhinestones, and then set the bead spacing. I want to do it from one grouped object. We shouldn't have too many more. And that's it. So I'm going to group those. And that leaves our red. Okay, so I'm not worried about the red. I'll set those. I'll pick those up as we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose my SS10, okay, and I'm going to choose the vector pack, okay, of gray. You got to ungroup, and then what I'll do is let me change my background color first so you guys can see what's going on since you're going to use lighter color stones. And I'll use Smart Design, and I'll use Uniform Fill, and I'll set my bead spacing on the Object Inspector, since everything's still selected, to 5. And what I'll do is I'll turn off my vector and see how that looks. That don't look too bad. What I do have to do, though, is I do have to adjust my margin so you start to see the opening in the A, which is missing. And the margin's right here. So I'm going to go to 12 on the margin, see how that looks. And that doesn't look too bad, okay? We got some issues with the C, and I'll treat that by itself. I'll just go maybe to 3 or 4 on the bead spacing, and maybe just decrease margin a little bit so I have a little bit more room for the fill. There we go. And like on the E, I may have to work on a little bit, maybe on margin. And I'll just decrease the margin until those individual letters look better. But I really needed it for this A, this cutout of the A for the G. The G didn't need 12, so I'm just going to go until it starts to look good. There we go. You see on this A, if I take out margin, you close the whole of the A. You can't tell that's an A. It looks like an upside down V actually. So by increasing margin, maybe not so drastic to 12, but by 11 you start to see it. Okay, and maybe I'll just do them all 12 points. And that doesn't look too bad. I mean, I got some issues with the O and all that stuff. Let's see what it looks like in an SS6 stone, okay? See, that even looks a lot better, okay? So I may keep it as an SS6. So now we're going to turn back on our vector so we can see the red parts. Come up here to your vector. See your vector parts right here? And we have the gray, and I'm going to go down to the bottom where the pink is. And I'm going to choose first the pink stones, choose the pink objects from the object manager, which allows me to convert all the properties at the same time. See, now they're all selected. And then we'll go to Smart Design, do Uniform Fill, set my bead spacing to the same number as I did on the gray, and let's see what it looks like. Okay, so now I got to figure out what my margin was on gray, and my margin was 12, so we're going to choose all the red areas, and they start here. Click on the first red, scroll down to the bottom, hold your Shift key, All of them are selected. I'm going to set my red to 12 as well. And there we go. So now we have this cool looking graphic where we married two parts together. And by the way, this will work with stars, anything. You got to make sure your text is behind, or and then overlay your shape, your graphic on top of it, and then use trim shapes. What I want to talk about now is actually doing small text. We get several calls on my text don't look really good in my graphic. I converted just like you tell me, but it doesn't really look good. The problem with text is if I have like this, let's go back to this memorial design, okay? And let's go ahead and set it to 8.5 inches. We will reduce the coloring. Take it down to 3 colors. Return. Whenever I have text that's a graphic, that I don't convert these. I don't use my magic wand to convert these to stones. The reason why is because it never really looks like I want it, okay? For instance, let's go ahead and try this. Even at 8.5 inch letter, let me go to an SS6 blue, and I'll choose my fill pattern, and I'll choose autocomplete. Okay, when I look at that, let's turn off the image. It doesn't look too bad, okay? Even if I were to go to hexagon fill, I'd probably get a little bit better look to the M. But look how many stones we're using. We're using 86 stones just in this M, and that's a lot of stones that we're actually using. Instead, what I would like to see you do is use your path tool, manually create this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use SS6, and I'll use my SS10 for the wider areas of this M, and I'll get a much better look. So what I'll do is I'll go to straight lines, and I'll just draw this out, enter. And I should have set my bead spacing beforehand, so let me set my bead spacing to 3. And then we'll go back into manual. I'll set bead spacing to 3, and I'll start from here with the small stones, right to here. I'll go to my SS10 stones, set my bead spacing to 4, and I'll start from here, come straight down here. I'll go back to my SS6 stone, set my bead spacing to 3. Go to my SS10 stone, bead spacing to 4. Go back to my SS6 stone, and we'll set our bead spacing to 3 again, and we'll do this serif right here. And then we'll go to manual hotfix, and we'll go ahead and put the cap right here. And actually probably don't even need it, but you can see what it looks like a lot. With a little bit more work, I can actually make this look a lot better of an M using the larger stones for the larger, wider thicknesses of the font. And I'm only using 39 stones. I can still achieve my my desired look of the lettering without having to do a full fill. Okay, and then we just continue on. So like this E, I would just choose your hotfix, choose your path, and start from here. And I'll just click here, go all the way across to the end. Do this one here. Do the serif first, and then come across. Come here. I'll come straight down, and I'll go straight across. And now we'll go to the SS10. The easiest method to use this is actually using with your snaps, okay? Having your grid set to a 1/4 inch grid and allow you to do straighter lines than trying to manipulate the mouse here. And I got some overlaps there, though, but you can see I can get this to look a lot better if I had a better mouse here. Let's go ahead and delete that. And there we go. Let me just set this right here. There we go. Okay. But what happens when our image is not 8.5 inches tall? What if our image is really small? Matter of fact, I want to get the text to about a half inch. So let me just go to I'm going to go to layout. And I'm going to choose set size. I'm going to measure just one of these letters. And I'm going to make that half inch tall. Okay. The problem with this, even after cleaning up our artwork, if we choose the smallest stone that we have in the house, SF6, we choose a fill pattern, choose the lowest possible spacing on beads, we magic wand this. Can you tell what that looks like? No. No, it doesn't look good at all. And this is the number one question. This is one of the most popular questions that we get all the time. Your letters cannot be any lower than a half inch. There's no way you can actually do a 1/4 inch letter. I need 4 stones, at least 4 stones, in order to make an M. If I do 4 stones up, and I come down here and I start downstroke right here, I come up, and then I would do the other part. Okay, so then I would just come from here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The lowest amount of stones that you can do in M, that's almost legible, and I just did that freehand, is actually, it's just under a half inch, okay? And B's and R's and O's and S's are going to be one of your hardest letters, some of your hardest letters to actually recreate. I don't really go below a half inch on my lettering, okay? It's just not going to look good. It's not going to be legible at all. With this, I always choose, when I'm on a small letter like this, like a half inch, I'm always going to do manual creation here. I'm not going to worry about the serifs anymore, okay? I'm just going to draw this out just like this. Okay. And I may take that to 2. Just to get a little bit better look. And there you go. You always want to rely on the manual methods. You don't want to auto-convert, okay? You don't want to use the magic wand. You'll just have to delete a lot and move a lot of stones after you're finished. So I'm just going to go over here. And then hit enter, and then I'll start from here. Come down to here. Come across. Usually I don't even worry about the serifs, only because it's really hard to get some of those serifs to work. Take that to 2. Take this to 2. All right, and then when I'm touching like this, I just bring the node down a little bit. You see, you can't tell that's a need when you start adding those serifs, okay? When I turn the image off, you'll see what I'm talking about. You know, that this little footer here, don't really need it, and this serif I don't need. So what I'll do is just move this one over and just do an E. Okay. All right, so we got a question here. Can you show how to change path of group stones in an image? Let's say to be a custom fill. You show how to change path of group stones in an image. You're talking about creating your own fill pattern using the flex fill? Is that what you're talking about, Samantha? Okay. The flex fill is actually a neat little feature that Sierra does have, where it allows you to design the fill of your own object. So the way it works, I'm going to bring in that graphic image again. And this really is noticeable on bolder images, okay? So I'm just going to make this about 5 inches. All right. And the tools that you're going to have, I'm going to go to, let's go to Hotfix, and I'm going to choose my SF6 red, choose where the red goes, choose my smart design, and I'm going to do what's called the flexible fill, okay? And turn off my image so we can see it now. Yep. I'm still on. Okay, let me change that. There we go. It's not a vector, so I do have the magic wand. All right, so I'm going to set this to 4 for now, and we're going to choose flexible fill. Use the autocomplete method to actually convert. All right, let's look at our graphic, okay? All right, so the way the flexible fill works. Let me see. Hold on 1 second. Let me just change the background color. Okay. The way that a flexible fill works, when we have a flexible fill, it's no longer a radial fill, okay? It's actually going to be a more straight line type fill here. Now we have different settings. We have bead spacing. Now your beads are laid out in lines, okay? It's not it's not organized like a radial fill. This is line 1, this is line 2, this is line 3, and all the way down. So the bead spacing it's dealing with is the spacing between the beads left and right. So when we decrease that number, the beads get closer together with their neighbor. This one here is row spacing. Each one of these lines of beads is considered a row. So if we increase this number, we have less rows. If we decrease that number, we have more rows, okay? This one here is a margin point, how offset we are from the border. And of course, if I increase that, look how far in from the border we go, okay? This only makes sense to use when the heart is up against another color right next to it, like a border color. Okay, so the way I work this out is I set my bead spacing pretty low here, okay? But I set my line spacing high, okay? Because you get to see the detail better. Now the way it works is you have what's called a stitch direction right here, okay? And I'm going to use, there's several different ways to use it. I'm going to use like a sawtooth pattern, like a zigzag to it, and it'll make the heart look like a thatch fill. Now however you affect this heart is the parts where you're actually going to affect the fill, okay? So for instance, if I stay in the middle here, it's only going to affect the stones where the lines are overlapping. When I come out, I'll just do right in the middle here. When I come out further, now I'm affecting the entirety of the shape of the heart from top to bottom. When I hit enter, the stones take on that shape, okay? You can see we only affected the areas in the middle, and towards the end, we're actually affecting all. Now we can actually change this by dropping this down to the bottom. Just grab the yellow point, dropping it down, and we can make several different looking shapes here. Maybe on here we could just bring this up so it affects these stones a little bit better. Okay, maybe widen it out a little bit, change the angle, the pitch of it. Just grab the yellow node and just slide it out. And then you can start to affect the look of your design. I'm just going to go out, and go out. And we'll bring these down. You can see what we got here. Now, we can actually play with that by decreasing the row spacing a little bit. So we're at 20, we go to 12. You can see what we start to get. This really starts to look good as soon as you put a border on it. I always border these colors. And I will choose, and that's this pen blue. Okay, you can start to see how, because the border actually gives it a sharp curve to it. Okay, let me see. Let's see. Can you create a zigzag? Okay, I just did that. Mark, when will we be able to see this video? Mayra, what video are you exactly talking about? I think Mark is recording this webinar as we speak, and I think that's what you're talking about. Another way we can actually do this, I'm just going to reset. And to reset, I'm just going to go ahead and delete this and go to images, and let's go ahead and try a different pattern fill. We're going to flexible fill. We'll choose autocomplete. Click on it, enter. Okay. There's also, you can also use spiral or curve type fills, okay? So again, I'm going to set my bead spacing to 5. Let's go to 4. And we'll set my line spacing to 12. There we go. And on the stitch direction line, well, you can actually do curves. So, I'm going to choose curve tools here. I'm just going to start doing like an S pattern here. And by the way, you can be as crazy with the shapes as you want. Like you can see, you can go way out. And I'll just do this. And you'll see the fill pattern that we're going to get from it. Don't like that one. Backspace, backspace. Let's take a look and see what this is going to do. Not enough room to do the fill, so I'm going to just increase the size of this so you can see it. Yep. You see there's an error in this, so let me just undo. All right, let's try it again. Let's resize this. I'll be a little bit more controlled with my placements. So I'm just going to go here. I only want a single click, so I'm going to go here. I'm just going to go just like this, in and out. Come over here, so I want to come right in this way. I'm being very, very cautious about the shape of my curves here. I double clicked. Let's try it again. So you can be as crazy with this as you want. And there you go. So let's go ahead and change the look. Play with your spacing of your lines, okay, because this really starts to look good when you start doing more spacing between lines, okay? Go as far as you want. 65, you get a different look for every time you do that, okay? That looks pretty cool. I mean, I could bring these lines in a little bit and get a little bit more fill in the middle where it's kind of neutraled out on me. You see that? You have these yellow grip points where you can actually pull things down and get a little bit better fill. Okay. And let's bring this one up a little bit more. There we go. And just add more lines. So I'll go to 45. This will probably look pretty good. Maybe 25. There we go. So now we start to get more and more there. Okay. All right. So we got another question here. What does the reprocess button do? The reprocess button is this button right here. It actually generates your stitches, okay? It's like a refresh button, okay, or your rhinestones. It's the same thing as refreshing. Just to show you, like if what I already have to reprocess automatically when I make an editing change. In order for you to see the work the reprocess does, in the options, go to Preferences Setup, and in the General under Create and Edit, if you turn off Auto Generate after addition and creation, okay, we can make a change to this. Okay, let's go to 95, okay? You're not going to see anything take place until I reprocess, okay? And I think that you can either generate stitches here, and then it processes, or if I go to 2. I'm not going to see the change. If I go to reprocess, I think they're, right, where's the reprocess at? It's grayed out because I have no stone information, so I have to go here. And there we go. So we'll reprocess this. It's just the same thing. It's regenerating the editing. But with those two functions on in the options menu, you don't have to worry about ever reprocessing, because whenever you make a change, you see the change take place right on the screen. Okay? So now when I go ahead and click on my object and I change my spacing to 98, it shows me what it looks like immediately. Okay? All right, so we'll go ahead and add a border to this. And then always choose like a bold border. The bigger the stone, the more light reflectivity you're going to have. A lot more shimmer. It's going to draw their attention to what's going on inside, okay? I always do that. Like an SS16 stone would be good, especially if I had the size. But, of course, if my object's a little bit smaller, it may not be able to handle an SS16 stone, because I don't, so I'll do an SS10, okay? All right. Any other questions before I move on? All right, so a couple of other fills that you do have that you should be aware of. Let me turn back on my imaging. Okay. Hotfix is the textured fills. Okay, a lot of people work with the textured fills. I kind of like them because they really provide a little bit more of an outstanding look to my designs than what I'm going to see out there in the public. All right, so let's go ahead and turn off the image. These texture fills are pretty dynamic. Like this one here is a popular one around the Halloween. It's like a spider web, and the look of the image starts to really take shape when you really increase the bead spacing. Okay, you start to get different looks to your image. You see how that almost looks like a nice gradient look to it when you go to 75. You see it's starting to taper out here, and we get a nice looking starburst effect there. When we come down to 2, of course, we get the spider web. Change it up. Like if I go to this one here, this is using SS6 stones as a square and an SS16 stone in the middle. But of course, it always looks better when you go to a higher spacing value. You can see what kind of looks you're going to get. And let's go to 98. And 98 doesn't do anything. It's too big. And 75. I think 50 is the highest you can go. But these really look good as you mess with them, like this one here. All right, so at 75, that's what it looks like. It's supposed to look like this, okay, which is pretty cool. But if we go to like a 98, we're going to get different looks, different scattered looks. That almost looks like a computer code. Let's go ahead and choose this spiral one, single color spiral. All right, let's go to 50. You start to see what it's doing here, okay? Not a lot of people realize what the textures can do as you adjust the shape. Now we start to get into a more geometric look to it. We're starting to get a little bit more consistency here as you decrease, okay? That looks pretty good. That almost looks like a plush fill. We'll go to the square one here, and I know I have another question here. Let's see what the question is. What do set angle and set size button for? That's a good question. Yes, you could say you can't create texture fills. It's a code that's written by Sierra that they actually create. You can get other textures and other fill patterns on their website as optional add-on packages. But as far as making your own, no, you can't make your own. You would have to embed it into the version of the software. The other one is what set size and set angle do? Let's talk about that. Let me get rid of my hotfix here. Let's go back to my image. Okay, good question, by the way. In the world of graphic, we have especially now, these are going to deal with primarily JPEG images. Okay, how we resize and how we angle a graphic image. Let me go ahead and bring in 2 different graphics here. Let me see. Looking for one that's let me see, probably going to have to choose, let's choose this one here. Let's bring them both in. Okay. We're going to talk about the set size, okay? Now, when you're looking at a JPEG, you always have this white background to it, okay? It always has the canvas size. And sometimes the canvas size does not meet the leading edge of the graphic, like on this Memorial Day. You can see that we have a space between that blue and the edge of our canvas, okay? Now, normally resizing, I normally go to layout, and you can resize right here, but it's actually resizing the canvas and anything on top of it. So if the customer specifically wanted this Memorial Day to be 5.5 inches wide, when I change it from here, okay, let's go ahead now. Let's see if measure the Memorial Day design. And what I'll do is I'll grab my view, and I will use my measure tool, and we'll go from the point of that star, drag a line all the way over to this point, which is the outermost, and we're at 5.29, not exactly 5.5 inches. When your canvas is not touching all 4 corners, or at least 2 corners of your graphic, you need to use the set size. Where the way the set size works is, let me just move this out. Let me just, hold on. Get him into a viewable screen here. There we go. Okay. The way that set size works is I will click right on the edge of that star, drag a line to the widest part, and then release. What you measured is what is highlighted here. So from here I can type in my 5.5 inches. Now I resize the graphic. My resize was built off the graphic, not the canvas. So if I go into layout or view and I measure it again, you'll see that we are going to be right at 5.5 inches. Okay? This graphic, you can see that in all 4 corners, the bounding box, my selection box, is touching all 4 corners. So in this situation, I can go ahead and go to layout and use the size tool here to set it to 5.5 inches, since the bounding box is touching all 4 corners. Okay? Now, set angle. Customer wants this to be 45 degrees to an angle to the right. Okay? Some of the tools that you have in the layout is actually set size, which we just talked about, set angle, which we're going to talk about, and mirror rotate. Okay? We can actually rotate this by 90 degrees. We can rotate it 180 or 270. Okay? That's pretty much going from prone to stand up. But when we have an off angle, not 90, 180, 270, we have to use a set angle tool. Now, the customer wants this to be 45 degrees to the right. Okay, so what you do is in the set angle, you draw a straight line. Doesn't have to be this long. And you see my drawing was wrong because I'm at 0.5. My line is a little crooked here, so I want to make sure that when I do this, I'm as straight as possible. So I'm just going to draw a short line, release. And in order to get this to tip to the right at a 45-degree angle, I need to put a negative sign because I'm going to be going clockwise on the rotation, and I'll do 45. And right now that heart is at 45 degrees. If I wanted to go the other way, you would, instead of putting the minus sign in there, you would just go to 45 degrees. And it tips the other way. Okay? It just allows you to choose a different angle, like especially those garments that have like a stripe down it that you're trying to put text into, okay, or you're trying to put a shape in there. I would measure that I would lay that garment out on the table, and with a protractor I would determine the angle of those fabrics that are weaving in and out, weaving across that garment, and then I would set the angle of my artwork to match that same angle. Okay. All right, we're about 11 o'clock now, and anybody have